No, I just kind of wanted to kind of chat tonight, kind of hang out, work on some of the stuff that I've been doing with RPG Maker. So, people who have been following my blog for a long time have been aware that I've made a few mentions of a kind of an idea of doing a D&D 4th edition. Fourth edition version of the game where essentially you would have built in all the functions of a 4th edition tabletop game built right into RPG Maker. And I thought that would be kind of a fun thing to explore and kind of work on. Originally, I had just come up with a very long damage box that you could work with here. Never mind my old homework from college 6-7 years ago. Here it is. Gotta grab my plugins. This is the one I've been working on. This one isn't quite complete. Ah. Not that. I want to open it up. So you can see here I've already got kind of a good setup for it and built out the code some. And essentially, it doesn't have bonuses to your damage rolls yet, and it doesn't have on miss effects yet, which both of which are the second one, of course, is a big one because that's a lot of things in 4th edition. Was, you had things that happened on a miss. You had extra damage, something like that, especially on daily abilities, things like that. So essentially, I kind of built this whole thing up, and I can actually show you a demo of it that I made. Oh, it's my Twitter. So, the entire idea I had here was, at no point in the several years that Wizards of the Coast was producing Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition was there a proper Dungeons & Dragons video game. There was a side-scrolling beat-em-up for some reason, and a few other games that came out, but they all used the 3rd edition rule set. And I never understood it because 4th edition, if anything, played more like a video game than pretty much any other version of D&D out there. It seemed like a natural fit. And for some reason, they never did anything with it. But you have the skills, you have the abilities, you have refreshing, you have cooldowns. Oh, that's right. Oh, that is loud. That is loud. I forgot how loud that is. Let's get past that. Ugh, God. I am sorry about that. I'm gonna have to do something about that later. Turn my audio back up here so I can hear myself. That was crazy. So, here I've got a little demo character that I've made up. Oh, it's still so loud. And then... So we have Harold, who's a hero. He's got abilities. I'll show you all the stuff behind the scenes here in a second. But generally, for the most part, it's all built in through... I think just attack has been built into this stuff. So I'm going to show you here the console while we play. Because the big reveal here is going to be that... Whoa. Turn that down. The big reveal here is going to be the fact that it's all in the console here. Or it should be. I guess not. I guess I turned that off. My bad. But This is not going well for me. First the audio and then all this other stuff. But to give you an idea here, behind the scenes in RPG Maker, and now the cats are playing with toys. Because that's what cats do. Get into the skills here. See, it doesn't look like it's doing anything. It says formula does 1 damage. What is that doing? I haven't really built out a lot of the damage and everything, but essentially what you don't see here is the abilities, like his attack and everything, are set to values like 18 or 10, 14. And the way this is set up, if you actually look over here in the code, is that you have attack as your physical attribute, you know, either strength, dex, or con, whatever's primary for your character class that you want to develop, or you have a primary magic attribute, which is int, wiz, charisma, and then you have your defense, which equals the armor class, the M defense, which is your willpower defense, your agility, which is the reflex defense, and luck, which is your fortitude defense. So built on those numbers, we come back over here and see that we've got 10 AC, 12 fortitude, 14 reflex, 15 fortitude, and 12 willpower. And if we go over to the monsters, have the orc, we have the similar setup. He gets, unlike the other one, he doesn't get like the ability scores. For the players, it already calculates like an 18 strength will do a +4 to +4 to your attack and damage. But monsters in 4th edition didn't have those stats, and often their stats didn't match up with what they had. So they would have like a 12 dexterity, but they were still shooting like a +5 to their on their bow or something like that. Namely just because that's just how they calculated the math. They based everything on basic attacks. So I had it set up so if it's an enemy doing it, you just put in the attack modifier. And then you have his defenses. He has 15 AC, 12. Fairly standard stack of hit points here. And then you get over into like armor and everything, and this, you just set what the defense bonus is to things. I don't really have a way of doing built-in with the extra AC for having dexterity or something for wearing light armor yet. Still trying to figure that one out because I haven't found anything. There's probably a plugin somewhere I can use that I can put in the notes down here, and it'll add on, you know, light armor, tag it light armor or something, and it'll add in the dexterity modifier or something like that. And then for the weapons, you have, ultimately these are designed to use another plugin that allows you to set like damage values for weapons. I think Works actually puts that one out, and it's a really good one that allows you to set up like this weapon does 2d6 plus, and then you can put whatever, like attack value, whatever. The attack value part, like that's all taken care of in my plugin, but the 2d6 thing, Works' plugin can handle that part. I also built in a thing so you could change the proficiency of weapons, because nearly all weapons have a built-in proficiency that adds on to just the attack roll and nothing else, to make it easier to hit things with certain weapons. And they all have usually 2, but there's some that are more proficient than others that make it easier to hit things. You know, things that are good at targeting specific. And for those, you want to set it higher. So the code, the plugin also recognizes it sets a default of proficiency unless there's a note tagging it as having a higher or lower than that. I don't think in the original rules they have anything that has proficiency 1, but you might want to do it. So essentially, yeah, you take a look at that, and this is, I know, a complete mess of just JavaScript right here. I've tried to make sense of it the best I can with comments and whatnot, but generally it just, here's what I said. It's like if it's one of the characters, take their attack value or their magic value minus 10 divided by 2. Calculate your modifier. Or just straight up use the modifier if it's an enemy. Then it actually rolls a d20. It also calculates things like, hey, if it's a miss, if your roll plus your modifier is less than the target defense of the target, and that's only if you didn't roll a 20, or you automatically miss if you rolled a 1. That's all calculated into this. Naturally, I got rid of evade and things like that. I also have a thing for damage critical. Applies critical if you roll a 20. I might eventually get around to enhancing it way down the line to include just if a class has an enhanced crit range or something like that. And then down here are the individual things that grab stuff, like calculate the attack bonus that it gets from weapons, if weapons give a +1 to attack, or a skill gets a bonus, or you get a state on you that's like, oh, you have a +2 to your next attack roll. So your next d20, you would add an extra 2 onto it to hit. That we have a setup for that now too, where you go into and apply it on states, and skills can apply states and whatnot. Same thing with defense bonuses. Make it harder for you to get hit. So this is kind of just what I've been working on all this time, and just I've been building this out and trying to get this ready to actually for people to use. And I thought it would be fun to actually use in a little program itself, just kind of build out an actual little adventure for 4 characters in RPG Maker, going off of the original adventures that were published in like the Dungeon Master's Guide, the original just short intro adventure they did, Kobold Hall. I figured that would be a fun one to use. And then, of course, on skills, you can also set defense, what defense you want it to attack. It'll default to AC if nothing is specified. So yeah, that's been the RPG Maker thing I've been working on for the past for a good while, actually. I just really enjoy building things in this program, but I just kind of wanted to chill tonight, and mainly I wanted to talk about Joker. Oh my god. I saw that movie on Friday with my friend. Talk about a kind of just... It's a game that, by all means, I mean, a movie, I don't understand quite how a movie like that gets made nowadays, because quite honestly, it's not bad by any means. Structurally speaking, and I'm speaking as someone who spent several years in film school and doesn't do anything with his degree except for rant about movies, that it was structurally perfect. Like, you could use that movie to teach classes. It's got everything down pat. Pacing is wonderful. The cinematography is gorgeous. The script is tight. There's only core elements, and it's like everything does everything right. In terms of show don't tell, masterful. Just gonna say it. But then at the same time, the actual subject matter is 2 hours of some of the most uncomfortable film I have ever watched. And I mean that. It's just, I'm surprised I was able to sit through it without getting up or doing anything, because it was like watching a puppy get kicked for 2 hours. It's that kind of uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable like I'm sitting in a school recital or something for a kid that, your nephew or something. But, no, just but just brutality. Utter brutality. And then, of course, you end up with the fact that the film, and I saw several critics respond to this, and they're right, but I don't think they're right in the way they think they are. And it said the film doesn't say anything. And that is not true. Well, it is sort of true. The film doesn't actually expressly say anything. It actually doesn't give you any answers. It doesn't give you anything. The entire movie is just a mishmash of things that happen in front of you, and you're kind of just left there to figure it out yourself. Delete all these old classes. We don't need them. We're going to have what? Fighter. Rogue. Fighter, rogue. Let's see. Wizard. And cleric. Standard D&D party. The film goes on and on about how just constant barrage of just it's almost like it's not meaningless. I think the word I used to my friend when we left the theater was it's everything had a point, but everything was also pointless. And that's a weird phrase. It's a weird phrase. But what essentially it's saying is that there is no ultimate goal. No one's trying to paint a picture. There's no moral to walk away from. And honestly, if people are talking about this movie getting an Oscar, and I think if it's going to cost anything is going to cost it a chance at the Oscar or any sort of reward, it's going to be the fact that it doesn't take a stance. It doesn't say anything. Because, let's be honest, the Oscars love that sort of thing. And this film doesn't. It doesn't. But the thing is, and the thing I think that all the critics miss, I think that's the point. I think the whole thing is that there's enough everywhere throughout that movie. I'm just going to name everyone adventurer till two players can enter their own names. There's enough in that movie that you can actually draw your own conclusions towards a myriad of messages. Oh, the film is pro-Antifa, it's pro-socialism, it's anti-rich people, or because the rioters in the streets aligning with Joker, who we know is a bad guy because the Joker is a bad guy. Also showing that these is, on the other hand, Antifa is bad. It could be interpreted both ways. And I think that's really the point of the film, because quite honestly, the same thing goes with the Joker. The Joker has no solid backstory in this. They put it as like the origin story, but every time you get a piece of the puzzle, it turns out that that piece is not necessarily going to fit in the whole scheme of things, or isn't, or maybe it fits, but it's from a completely different puzzle. Ultimately, and then in the end, you throw the whole thing under the bus with the fact that the whole thing is done by in the head of an unreliable narrator. How much of the movie actually happened? Don't know. We assume someone died. That's about it. That's about all you can really assume, is someone died. don't know what to make of that. The entire thing is kind of piecemeal, which is fitting for the Joker, because the whole thing is, I mean, as he says in The Killing Joke, he prefers his backstory to be a multiple choice, and that's what this movie is. It really is. It's pick and choose your favorite backstory, because there's a lot of different ways it can go, and you can just sit there and say, no, I think that was a fantasy, that was reality, and no one can tell you that you're wrong, and no one can tell you that you're right, which I think is brilliant. It's fun. It's kind of like this thing. It's not art as much as it is Legos. And that works. I think it works in this case. I suppose, really, the only other thing that I could say about it, the whole movie... Oh, wait. I gave that wrong Harold to the wrong person. There. You're Harold. You'll be our rogue. But... it's just one of those things where it's like the whole movie could be boiled down in the fact that there is nothing about this movie that had to be about the Joker. None. Didn't have to be about Batman. Didn't have to take place in the DC universe. You could have used this script, just changed some of the names around, you would have been fine. There's nothing. It's universal, and it's also maybe too universal. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's where the critics are having the trouble. Is the idea that you don't get any answers. You just have to deal with the fact that, hey, there's nothing. So just make it up as you go. Pick the part you like. Say that's it. And no one can prove you right. No one can prove you wrong. It's multiple choice. I like that aspect of it. It took me 3 days to come to that conclusion. I've been thinking about this film like nonstop. It's just one of those things. And I will say, it is a deeply unpleasant film. It's a hard sit. For, where am I? Where's my actor? Where's the guy? Is it there? There he is. For multiple reasons. I mean, you're watching a guy essentially dealing with suffering from mental illness and just completely breaking down and everything just being taken from him, and every time he thinks he got a leg up, turns out that's not actually the case, like, at all. As I said, it's 2 hours of watching a puppy get kicked. A murderous puppy, but a puppy nonetheless. Because I will say, I'll just name classes, because we're not going to do the name entry right this second. It'll be like that one show, Goblin Poker. I don't know. Anyway. No, I know it's Goblin Slayer. We're just chatting. I'm not joking so much tonight. I don't know. Work's been a nightmare lately this week, so I am just kind of relaxing and enjoying company with all of you in the chat. I've got a new complete setup here. I got a camera set up, and it's crappy, so you notice it's all laggy and stuff like that. I don't really care. I just kind of like how the fact that I can say hi now. And to all of you who are thinking it, yes, he is fat. Very fat. I've been chunky since I was a kid. I don't care. I prefer to live life happy Not to mention the crap ton of medication I've been on in my life that have caused me to excessively gain weight, and my penchant for not wanting to exercise or do social activities outside of the house. That has not helped. That hasn't helped at all. Fry, you need to do something about that. And to which I say, but then I wouldn't be able to do this with all you lovely people. Trade-offs. Also, then I wouldn't be able to eat cheese. I love cheese. I've got spray cheese. I have usually a little bit of that for breakfasts. Because I don't like breakfast food at all. Fun fact. Fun Fry fact. Fry doesn't like breakfast. Except for bacon. I like bacon. And pancakes from some places. Homemade pancakes, rarely. But there's a few places I'll eat pancakes from. Waffles, never. Eggs, disgusting. Just the way I am. I've been that way, I don't even know how long. I eventually gave up on just the idea of trying to be someone I'm not. I spent a lot of my life trying to do that, and it was not productive. Oh, look, now we're getting deep. That's what the Joker movie did to me. I'm all deep and philosophical now. Okay, so we got our classes, we got our our characters. They're cute. Let's see, what else do we need? Let's see, attack, guard. I'm going to change guard to total defense. The rest of these we can get rid of, because we're not going to use them. Instead, I'm going to build first level kind of abilities here for all of the different jobs or classes we are using. Jobs. I get my Final Fantasy mixed up. I always say in Final Fantasy when I'm playing, it's like classes. No, it's jobs. Oh, now I'm doing the opposite with everything else. That's why we're doing these jobs. No, they're called classes, Fry. Oh, I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. Classes, jobs, no, none of this makes sense at all. None, nothing. Zip, nada. Anyway, I actually have been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14. It's actually, I still haven't even unlocked flying in WoW yet because of it. Get this up here. You can't see it because I have a PDF of the player's hand. Look over here. Shh. Don't tell Wizards. I don't think they care anymore. Are they actually selling 4th edition books anymore? Anywhere? Have you seen any? I haven't. Everything's 5th edition, which, I mean, good on them. 5th editions, I love 5th edition. It's a great edition. Hard to translate into a video game. Okay, now we're going through the races here. But there's a faster way to get through this. There we go. So, but yeah, I haven't written anything about it on my blog. I just haven't written much of anything on my blog at all, because generally I don't really do much that's interesting to write about. I probably will write a whole breakdown of the Joker and all my thoughts on it, because there's a lot. Just everything goes on. The longer I think about it, the more stuff pops up in my head going, oh yeah, that too. I noticed that. Okay, here we are, fighter. We finally found it. So really we want to just do cleave. And, oh, I don't know. Sure Strike. That's a fine one. The other one I was gonna give is Reaping Strike, but it's like I don't have the on miss stuff done yet, so I can't really do anything with that one yet. But yeah, I just haven't had a lot of interest in doing things in writing lately. I haven't even worked on my fiction writing. As he says, trying to evade the topic that it's all fan fiction. So, and then it's just been kind of crazy lately. I just feel like crushed under a weight, a mountain of stuff. Here's my encounter. These are at wills. Right. I need to finish my types before I do all this. Ugh. I have 4 different types of skills. You have exploits for fighter, trick for the rogue, spell for the wizard. Oh yeah, now the camera's up. You guys can actually see the chinchillas back there. And that didn't work. Okay, prayer. But you see how like all this actually translates really well and really easily into like 4th edition, right? Like you have light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, shield. Change to the maximum. We only need 4. And then boom. There's all your armor types for 4th edition. And then you have equipment types for all your different slots. You can do 2 rings, to all the different magical item slots that give you stuff. I wouldn't recommend doing that, honestly, just because a lot of the slots do not have any sort of advantage that would be easy to convey in a video game. Like, I still haven't come up with anything for like skills or anything. So far, everything has just been combat based in terms of my development. But that's not to say it's impossible. I mean, there's extra parameters, plugins that you can use for all the skills, and then you can call them and do everything. So you can just set variables for them, which I can see pretty easy to do if you have yourself a small enough cast of characters. Like this one's 4 characters, and that's that average D&D party. We're not giving him any backstory or anything in this, but so we got all of that done. Let's get back to our skills here. Cleave is an exploit. Sure Strike is an exploit. Exploit. 2 random enemies because it's cleave. Occasion only on the battle menu. We don't use these because we're going to end up using Yanfly's limited use plugin, which is perfect for this because you can then just set like, okay, encounters can be used once per battle and then refresh, and then you can do something like for dailies they have to take a long rest, and a long rest, what I planned on doing for this is having, instead of having it so they can just stop and sleep wherever, which is, the classic DM problem. Um, they would have to use a camping kit at a preset like campfire spot, so they'd find like a safe spot where they can camp, and then they would refresh all of their hit points, their healing surges, and things like that. I haven't talked about the healing surges yet either. Again, it's not something that's covered by the plugin. But what I was actually working on was, instead of, since you're using the limited use thing and no one actually uses like magic points, MP, for anything in this system, I actually turned these into everybody's healing surges. So every time you would get a heal or something like that, you would lose, your MP would go down by 1. And only refresh on long rests. I thought it was a clever idea. The trick really is trying to get it so the target loses 1 MP instead of the caster. And I had a version of the game where I was actually working on it and used that, but I think I've lost it to the ages. I don't know. I recently upgraded my computer and transferred everything I could over to a new hard drive. And I think I lost some of my RPG Maker stuff during that time. But, anyway, I was talking about Final Fantasy and WoW and stuff like that. And yeah, I've been just grinding on those. There's not really anything to talk about there. I don't really have a means or a way or anything actually to say about like a day-to-day blog type of thing, which is why the website hasn't been updated very much. I just don't have anything to add to right now. When something interesting happens or something controversial, something I have an opinion about happens, I'll write. But as far as it goes, I mean, I was kind of tempted to write about Classic because, I tried. I'm still in it. I'm playing a little bit with my wife and her family. But I'll tell you this. It's just as tedious as I remember it. I mean, that's all it is tedium. You go, you fight, you die, you run back, you die, you run back, you die, you run back, you die. I'm playing a mage, which I never did in vanilla, and that's even worse. I played it in Burning Crusade. I played a mage for a while, and it was about the same there, kind of. A little bit better. But the concept just like, okay, I killed 2 things, now I have to stop and drink multiple times because my conjured water does not actually replenish all of my mana. And it's just kind of like, yep, this is about bad as I thought. I also have thoughts on things like the WoW storyline, what's going on with Battle for Azeroth, and I see people online just ripping on it and talking down about it and beating up on it. And, I see their points. It's not like I'm thinking they're wrong. There's definitely something to take away from them about how it's just not really that good. But I think there's some shining moments in it. I don't think this is Garrosh 2.0. I don't think this is. Just constantly. I think there's actually some value to this whole thing. Can I cut these and paste them? Nope. I forgot. I was going to put in second wind up here at point 3, but I can do this with abilities, but not for anything else. I can copy and paste. That's weird. That's just weird. Yeah, I can do it here. Copy. Can I copy and paste? Copy, paste. Yes. I can't undo, though. Bad move. do it this way. This is going to be a second wind. That's cleave. That's... What did I say it was going to be? Reaping Strike? No, it wasn't going to be Reaping Strike because I don't have the on miss. Sure Strike. That's what we were going to call it. We use Sure Strike. That. Change that. And I suppose I should sign that its own type. Now that I'm thinking about it. I think I might. Since I kind of finished getting some of this stuff with the fighter, I think I've talked about enough stuff that I've wanted to talk about. I think we play some games. Maybe we'll play some more Fallout New Vegas here in a minute. I think that'll be fun. I'm kind of curious about that. I also want to try The Witcher again. Just one of those things. Those changes. You gotta go through and set all these weapons and everything. Ah! What? Oh, it's because that's open. What is it called? Oh, yeah, that's okay. That's the string. Attacks with a big comeback strike! So... That's give you an idea. That's kind of how I want to say that was like what I chose to use. Def? Is it def or the whole word defense? Defense. Yeah. Specified defense AC. And then you would also put things like, and here this is how you call in like which attribute to use. If you use physical, it wants you to use the strength, dex, constitution, and magical will use the wisdom, intelligence, charisma stat, also known as attack and magic in RPG Maker language. Let's see, spinning sweep. Use it as a spinning sweep. This is stir strike. I like having something fancy for the dailies. We'll just use guard. We'll just leave it as default. Only the user can use second wind. So yeah, that's kind of how this whole thing ends up going. Is spinning sweep. Does any of these use? Nah, he's a fighter. He pretty much just attacks the AC of things, I guess. And I don't have to put that in there because it's, you know. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not gonna use any special animation for that because they're just at wills. And wonder, do we have an animation that's kind of a windish effect? Imagine we do. But I don't know if it's the look I want. Nope. That's a little bit better. So I kind of just wanted something. Eh. Nope, not that one either. I guess that second wind one wasn't terrible for kind of a spinning attack. Okay. Skill. Spinning sweep. Down here we'll use wind 1, 2. And then for combat strike, we need something really flashy for the animation. Well, that's impressive. That is less fightery, though. Body slam? Oh, there was one called sweep. I should have just used that. That would have been way better. See, that's not flashy enough. I want something flashy for the dailies. I think it'd be cool. Something like that. Yeah, it's... Nah, not absorb. That's cute, but I don't think... See that is right up the alley of what I want. I mean, it's not literally what the fighter would be doing, is it? No, but it's still that level of cool. Earth all 3. All right, I think that's. Oh yeah, we should change this over to the sweep. There. Perfect. I think with that, maybe we'll play another half an hour or so of like, see what we can stumble into in Fallout New Vegas here, and have some fun with that. In the meantime, I'm just gonna switch things over here. There we go. You guys liking the new theme? I'm kind of a fan of it myself. It's not necessarily the one I wanted, but I use Streamlabs for my streaming, and I don't do this for a living, so I don't sink a ton of money into it, and they just recently moved like 90% of their themes behind a paywall, $12 a month or something like that. It's like, I don't have that. I'm not going to pay $12 a month for streaming once every month and a half. It just doesn't make sense to me. We'll check in back though with the Cobalt Hall here again at some point in the future, I think. Because it's... I want to see what you guys think of the progress on it. It motivates me to work, just knowing that I can show it off a little bit to people. No, Steam, I want to see the installed games. Thank you. Let's see here. Fallout New Vegas. So, bottoms up. Let's get our game on. Once it decides to reinstall the distribution packages, for some reason again, I don't know. I'll never understand Steam, like why it has to install all this stuff, going back and forth between things. So, I mean, back on Joker, it definitely is a standout movie. It's definitely one of those things that's definitely going to stick out in people's minds going forward. And I don't know, it's one of those things, like I said, does it incite violence? You could interpret it that way. So they're not wrong to say that, because that is very much one way to look at it. The other way is the fact that it shows just how broken this individual is, and is not to be viewed as a role model, just simply because of just, I mean, he's a loser. He is. Arthur Fleck in the movie is a loser. He loses his job. You find out pretty much everything is just a figment of his imagination, and the only thing he can really cling on to is that the world seems to hate him. He's not charismatic like Heath Ledger was as the Joker. He's not frightening. In fact, actually, the way Joaquin Phoenix kind of portrays him in some scenes, he's a little feminine, even, in sometimes. I mean, you'll see scenes where he just... And it's never suggested like there's a reason behind that or anything. Or even that it's intentional or anything like that. It's just kind of like one of those things where I noticed it and just kind of like, oh, okay, he's playing it that way. I don't know what he's trying to signal with that, or if he just thinks that Arthur's an effeminate character in some regard. Or he's graceful too. I mean, that could have been what he was going for with it. Maybe it's not supposed to be specifically something as sex related as or gender related as feminine, as much as it is that he's more an emotional creature who he dances when he's happy. Usually involves after he kills someone. But